Hi there, my name is Steve Gearhart, and as always, this is the Unagi Observer. Thank you so much for stopping by and watching the video. You guys know I love it when you come by and watch the video because this is a little bit of a labor of love for me. I really enjoy doing it, so I'm always happy that you guys want to watch the videos. So again, thank you. So this week we're going to do an anime review. And this is part of the theme for this season, which is we're going to talk about some anime that came out of the Adult Swim / Toonami block from back in the day. We're talking the early to mid 2000s. Yes, during that little time period, a heyday when we got a whole bunch of interesting stuff. And Adult Swim was doing interesting things as well. And Toonami and Tom were giving us fun anime to watch. A lot of what is anime today, anime watching I should say today, comes from this little period of time for us. So we're going to get into one of the earlier animes to appear on Toonami, and it's called Scried. Okay, so Scried has a certain personal history with me, and that has to do with back in the day when I was watching Toonami and Adult Swim. That was early in the early 2000s, and by around 2005 we got Scried on Toonami. It had been released in 2001 back in Japan, but 2005 is when us Americans got it. And it was one of the first anime that I made a conscious effort to sit down on a weekly basis and try to watch it episode for episode every week for 26 weeks. And I was largely successful in doing that. Sometimes, you watch a thing and then you miss an episode, so you kind of have to go back to it, blah, 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 back and forth. Where do I find it? VHS tap is online. And this is early 2000s, so, streaming technology wasn't that great, and there was a lot of pirated stuff out there. And fan subs and all that stuff, and fan dubs. So this was one of the first animes where I made an effort to actually watch all 26 episodes as presented in chronological order on Toonami. And I was successful in that. And the reason why I wanted to do that was because I had decided in 2005 to actually create a real blog. Up to this point, I had been working on MySpace. I just started tinkering with YouTube. One of my YouTube channels was not anime related. It was 60 Second Steve's. It was something else totally different. But I wanted to talk about anime, something that I've enjoyed pretty much my entire life. But I didn't really know how to go about it. So as I was watching Scried and taking my notes and trying to understand it and all that kind of stuff, when I got to the end of it, I decided to do a blog. Not a video blog, but just a regular blog. And the blog was called, well, before I tell you what it was called, you'll notice on my thumbnail it says, before there was the Unagi Observer, ... So before there was the video blog that we have here today, the Unagi Observer, there was a previous anime blog that I was writing, and it was called Behind the Big Eyes. Don't try to find it. It's not out there. It doesn't exist anymore. The website and web holdings and all that stuff kind of just disappeared, went off the face of the earth because I stopped using it after a while, after about a year. But anyway, so Scried was actually the first anime that I actually reviewed, and probably technically the first anime I ever reviewed in a public forum like this. So it has a special memory for me, a special place in my heart for it. So now that you know the reason why I decided to choose this anime to start off the theme of this season, which is to, for the 5 episodes, do 5 anime from the early Toonami and Adult Swim programming blocks. This is why I chose that one. It's the first of the first, as they say. So let's get into some of the details, which are kind of interesting. This anime did not come from a manga. Actually, the manga came from the anime. So the anime, like I said, was released in Japan in July of 2001, ran through the end of December 2001. On October 2001, that's when the manga started, and the manga went past the December date and went into June 2002. Now there were also 3 volumes of light novels. The first started May 10th, 2002, and ran through May 10th the following year, 2003. So this is an early 2000s kind of thing going on here, and the animation actually kind of shows it. There were also 2 anime films that followed this. One was in 2011, the other one is 2012. I had not really seen those 2, and I haven't read the light novels. So let's talk about the anime itself. So the plot is there was this geological event that happened in the 20th century. And it kind of broke up Japan physically. Like it broke the main island, Honshu, up. And broke it up into 2 areas, the larger area being the Lost Ground. And that's where a lot of the poor people and the people who live in poverty, who aren't rich and, tilling the land and just kind of under the thumb, so to speak, that's where they lived. And there was a smaller chunk of land that kind of broke off, sort of like a city-state, but fairly large. And that was called the mainland. So it's kind of interesting. The smaller thing is called the mainland because they thought themselves of, well, we're actually really human, and the rest of them, they're just, servant people and, whatever. They're just dirty. And so they call it the mainlands. So as it turns out, 1% of the world's population has developed special powers as a result of this geological event, which and we are now in the early 21st century of this. So in the Lost Ground, we have our hero. Let me make sure I get his name right, because I get the 2 mixed up somewhere. Kazuma. So Kazuma and his friend, who does have a power, and he's called an Altered. He works kind of as a mercenary in the Lost Ground. So he kind of does odd jobs, defends people, like, guards caravans, that kind of stuff. And he's got a buddy who doesn't have any powers, who kind of is his broker, so to speak, and best friend. And there's this little girl who is, I'm trying to find her name, Namaki, I think is her name, who is very much younger, probably like 10 years old, has a little bit of a crush on Kazuma. And Kazuma has vowed to protect her. Okay. So that's the Lost Ground. So in the Lost Ground, you have people with some of the people have powers and stuff like that. On the mainland, right, where all the rich people, rich people, all technology and all this good stuff. Again, 1% of the population has powers, but they belong to an organization called Holy, all capital letters. And it is the job of this group to protect the mainland from basically the world. We're talking isolationist policies. And one of the most powerful ones is called Ryoho. And so he has powers as well. He's an Altered as well. Now, the Altereds in the mainland have jobs, and they have special privileges because of these jobs, which is to protect the mainland. So they're kind of in the top tier of the top tier, so to speak. So everyone's kind of rich and healthy and whatever. And these guys are further up on the food chain. So periodically they have to go into the Lost Ground to either retrieve something, get somebody, go in and make sure the populace is under their thumb, blah, 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 this kind of stuff. So this is very much a science fiction / dystopian kind of story. The government of the mainland is very much uncaring of what goes on outside of the mainland. As long as people produce, you're okay. But if you slack off, then they come in like the warlords of old and crack the whip, so to speak. So Kazuma and Ryoho eventually come to loggerheads over these kinds of things, and they become rivals. And so a large part of the series is them duking it out. And there comes a point when they decide to go no holds barred, and Kazuma's best friend, something happens to him, I'm not going to say what, and they just have an all-out battle, which causes a rupture in the space-time continuum, and suddenly there's access to a parallel Earth. Now, this isn't like Gate, where people go back and forth and willy-nilly. This is just something that everyone acknowledges, that there's this kind of crack here, and people are trying to figure out what to do with it, if anything. The people on the mainland are just like, how do we use this to increase our power? The people on the Lost Ground are just like, I don't think this is a good idea. You get the idea. So during this fight, and this thing happens, There's this big explosion, and it is believed that Kazuma and Ryoho are dead. They're not. Ryoho loses his memory and thinks that he actually lives in the lost ground, and he kind of takes up the mantle of Kazuma, where he kind of starts protecting people and starts becoming a better person, a good person, a nice person, as opposed to a cold-hearted, SOB previously. Kazuma is just for whatever reason his spirit is broken, and he's just in this fighting circuit, and that's all he does. Obviously, things turn around for both of them, and they come together, and they're ready to duke it out. And then they look over and realize that the mainland people screwed up that access to the parallel universe, and stuff is coming through, and it needs to be dealt with. So they join forces and they do the thing. And that's where I'm going to end it. There is more to the story. There's actually a full quarter of the story after that story arc. But should you want to watch this, then I don't want to spoil it for you. But basically, you get the idea. The animation is definitely late 90s, early 2000s. Not saying that's bad, but you can definitely almost like timestamp it just by looking at it. But it's good. It's good animation. It's interesting animation. There is a little bit of tiny bit of CGI, and what CGI there is really has to do with when they call their powers up and their physiology changes, and you get a little bit of that. It's not a lot, but it's noticeable. It's there. The story is pretty good. Once you get to the point where Ryoho loses his memory and you realize that he's going off on a different path, you start rooting for this guy. So that's kind of interesting. It is, however, sort of a basic dystopian story. I mean, it's nothing really breaking ground per se, but it's visually very interesting, and the fights are pretty well done. Some of the powers are kind of laughable, and that's one of the things I said in my very first anime review, was that I really didn't understand some of the character designs that they did. Well, I mean, I understood why they did. I mean, I understood what it was supposed to represent and what they were supposed to do and how it was supposed to function. I was just like, well, that just doesn't look right. So when you see it, you'll understand what I'm talking about. There are secondary characters that you will come to either. It's hit or miss with them. You're either going to really like them, or you're going to be like, ugh. You don't hate them, but it's just that, that person, kind of a thing. So you really don't care. So there are flaws in this anime. So in 2005, when this thing showed up on Adult Swim, Toonami, and it did its rotation, I think 3 times. Is that right? About 2, I think actually 2 times between 2005 and 2006, and then it just kind of walked off the face of the earth, and I think a lot of people forgot about it. So, this is one of my first animes over 20 years ago. Jeez, I'm just realizing that. I'm old. Anyway, so should you watch this? I think that if you're interested in Toonami history, I think if you're interested in the Adult Swim Toonami thing, I think this is one of there's a lot of programming that they put out there. Actually, when you take a look at it, there's a lot of titles out there, and I do think that this is one of the titles that you should spend some time on. There's some stuff that they've put out there that, even anime, that don't waste your time, right? So, but Scried, I think, is interesting in that it tells a different story that was common at the time, but I don't think that we're getting a whole lot of now. There is no isekai here. It's not magical. It's not high fantasy. There's no question about if anyone's going to nationals or not or anything like that. It's just a different kind of story. So I think from a historical perspective, I think you should watch this and just kind of get an idea of what anime looked like in the early 2000s, not just visually, but kind of like the storytelling and how they brought things across. And like I said, in Japan, this actually did fairly well, and people know it, as opposed to here in America, when you say Scried, again, people kind of look at you and go, I don't know. So be that guy who knows about the one anime that people don't are like, I don't know what that is. So be that guy that knows what it is. So watch Scried, enjoy it for what it is. This is no masterpiece. I'm going to tell you that straight up. This is no masterpiece. but it is definitely something like a, if you're in between major anime projects, or you just want something different than an isekai, give this a go. This is a really good palate cleanser. So yeah, Scried, give it a go. See what you think. So Scried, give it a try. Please do tell me what you think about it down below. Be nice, no trolling. And yeah, that was one of the first animes I ever did a review on, back when I did not have the Unagi Observer, but was doing a written blog called Behind the Big Eyes. So a little bit of personal history there, yes. Speaking of stuff, so again, as always, we have season 3, I believe, of Otaku Station going on right now. We are filming season 4, believe it or not. But if you want to see some of those episodes from season 3, please see the link down below. It's down the Anime Archaeology YouTube site that Brent Newhall runs. And you'll see John, Brent, and I talk about anime in absurd, in-depth reviews and thoughts and opinions. So please check that out. Let's see here, of personal news and Gen Con. For those of you who know, I've been enjoying Gen Con, so I'm going again this year, and I'm going to do 2 panels, it looks like. So if you're at Gen Con, or you're going to go to Gen Con, the 2 panels I am doing is the Guns of Tanegashima. I've updated it so that I can do it there. If you were at Annie Moore way back in the day, 2018, I think that's the first time I trotted that little puppy out. But like I said, I updated it, and I'm going to be doing it at Gen Con. And due to the success of the second panel at Anime USA, I'm going to do it at Gen Con as well, which is Cowboy Bebop, the soundtrack, OST 1. So it's called the Music of Cowboy Bebop, OST 1. And I'll be doing that as well. Right now, things can change, but it looks like they have me in a meeting room at Lucas Oil Field, which is right next door to the convention center, which is kind of cool. So if you're going to Gen Con, there you go. And please sign up, show up. They're fun. They're fun panels. I assure you they are fun. Okay, so that's it. That's going to be it for this week. What shall we have next week? I don't know. You're going to have to tune in and find out. So that means that you guys have to stay healthy and be good, because I'd like to see you out in the world, maybe at Gen Con or some other convention like Anime USA, or out in the world. And if you happen to see me on the street or in the convention or wherever, just come up and say hi. I would love it if you did that. So that means you guys stay healthy, stay good, and love you guys. And as always, watch more anime.